We'll still bring you more on environment because we had an exclusive interview with the Lands and Natural Resources Minister yesterday, and we're looking at a wide range of issues regarding Ghana's environment and how its protection can be enhanced. All after this break. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, the news of the 42-year-old businessman, Mr. Evans Opon, who offered his daughter to be killed for money rituals, was met with condemnation from the public. Yet the trauma on the victims involved cannot be quantified. The manner in which the news was disclosed to the 11-year-old girl and her mother by the police leaves much to be desired, and a lot of people have condemned the manner in which this was done. Mr. Bright Appiah is the Executive Director of Child Rights International, and he shared his thoughts on GTV Breakfast. But let's hear from the mother on how the incident was revealed to her.
Ni papa ne befre. Nanso ni papa no wanfre. Nti wanfre saa no. 11:40. Ena me receive call onu kra na me kota ade nti me weka no na de phone di mechi na me say na man kan cho say me de me phone obi fra mo mfa na ono say ma fa phone na ma receive call na enipa ne shout o me so say me mfa phone ni manira me mfa phone ni manira nti enipa no kra gina phone ni so na me so on fa ma me nti ahono mo na me gi phone na me say hello na enipa ne bi say me say me ba no wo he nti o ka se me ba no na me so ni teacher ni ana if so no ko school na say wan be school a teacher ni frɛ ebisa se de nti na wan be school ana nti o say enye ni teacher ni na oye police ni na oba ni na ne de ode ni number ama me nti oba ni wo police station one ni papa sese a na papa de ni ko jiske dro sana police police the
right of the child has already been abused, and if the parents are interested, they can pursue that aspect, to see how best the interest of the child will be well protected. And then again, what we can do for the child in terms of her psychological makeup. It is very important in this process. Though alleged offense has been committed, but the state that we put the child in is not something that we can negotiate. It is
a traumatic experience for the child and the mother. Now, joining us for more on this subject is a clinical psychologist, Mr. Ni Note Dia, for more as to how the mother and the child can deal with this experience. Thank you so much, sir, for your time this afternoon. I want to pick your thoughts on how the news was broke to the mother, and do you think it was done in the right manner?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, right. This is obviously a very serious matter, and the alleged crime is serious in itself, but we must be mindful of the way in which we respond in order not to commit further harm or cause further trauma to the child or to the family. So that's where the concerns are. The matter, as I understand it, is still unfolding. The perpetrator or the father has been arrested. I have watched a clip where a child is being told what exactly had ensued and that the father wanted to. I'm again unaware of which division of the police service handled this and whether the personnel involved have the appropriate training. But what I saw in the video leaves much to be desired. There's a bit of noise in the background. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go on with your point.
Okay. So what I saw in the video leaves much to be desired, and I'm speaking specifically to what I've been privy to see in the video, where a child is being engaged by an officer who I think immediately asked what the name of her father is, in a manner and a tone which is somewhat intimidating and traumatizing. And then he blatantly discloses the facts of the case and then goes on to say that they are police officers who have come to rescue. Now, a child who has been subjected to trauma by a parent or a caregiver is already in a dilemma, a psychological dilemma. And therefore, at that stage, that material point in time, is not ready to believe and readily accept anything that is being said. This is why it is important and essential, and indeed non-negotiable, that trained officers handled such a case. We spent several years training and building capacity of the police, and I know we have DOGSU officers with good capacity and experience. So this is not a case where you send just any officer or any serving police officer. They must know what to do. They must know the dangers, the traumas involved, so that they don't commit what I call system-induced trauma. So in this case, the child's rights and the child's safety and well-being have been further compromised by the way and manner in which this case was handled. I would want to hope that subsequent engagements with the police service would be handled by experienced personnel who have experience in handling child victims and indeed family and domestic cases. So that's my initial comment. So considering the age of the child, which I believe to be 11, this is a very traumatizing event, and the full fact, the full debrief or disclosure must be handled by trained personnel. We are not privy to what the child was told by her father.
Okay.
We're not privy to the nature of the relationship, but clearly, and I do know and believe that the police has the capacity when it comes to handling these cases. I'm just praying that the right and appropriate personnel will handle this child, and that this is not just for the initial stages, but for the long haul. So this is a process, and it must be properly handled to secure and safeguard the well-being of the child and her future well-being, and again, the well-being of the family. So I would want that the police would harness and employ the appropriate officials and structures to handle this child, to overcome this trauma. I wouldn't want to go on and list the kinds of trauma and the kind of support she needs, but I'd like to believe that we have the capacity within the country and indeed within the police service. We must correct what has gone amiss or gone wrong in the initial handling of this case. Even the arrest in itself, I believe, could have been better and more professionally handled.
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Nino Tedua is a clinical psychologist and has been telling us what to do in cases like that one, which happened some few days ago, and all the videos that we've seen on social media and the many ensuing issues. It's still News Hour live at 2. We go for a break. We return.
There are
strong women who logic, decisiveness, and self-confidence. Being strong is not just about physical abilities, but also emotional, intellectual, and mental strength. Women's Voice is a platform to hear and share stories to encourage women and girls. Women are the real architects of society. It is they who provide the foundation of power, grace, wisdom, justice, creativity, and hope. Join us live every Monday at 4 p.m. on GBC News and GTV, Wednesdays live at 4 p.m. on GBC News and a repeat on Saturdays at 4 p.m. on GBC News and Sundays at 3 p.m. also on GBC News. Women's Voice. No one can make you inferior without your consent.
Hello, good afternoon. We bring you business updates now. My name is Morris. So, now President Akufo-Addo has inaugurated 100 mercury-free gold processing equipment, commonly referred to as gold catcher, in Accra. The equipment has the capacity to recover 90% of gold from the ore without the use of mercury. That's saving both artisanal miners and the environment.
Procure some 300 more of these equipment under the National Alternative Employment and Livelihood Program for use in the various communities where the program is being implemented. Our goal is to eliminate gradually, but as soon as possible, the use of mercury in small-scale mining and help realize the objectives of the Minamata Convention on mercury. Ladies and gentlemen, let me reiterate once again a clear message. The Akufo-Addo government is not against small-scale mining. On the contrary, the government is in full support of responsible small-scale mining activities as they provide avenues for Ghanaians to participate in the mining industry and contribute substantially to the development of our gold sector. What my government is against is any form of mining that pays no heed to the preservation of the environment and which threatens the very survival and the legacy we seek to bequeath future generations.
And also in business, government statistician Professor Samuel Kobina-Enim says compared to their output, workers in the public sector are generally overpaid. He stressed that public sector workers should earn incomes equal to their output. The government statistician was speaking at an inaugural lecture at the University of Cape Coast. Let's speak to economist Mr. Emmanuel Dakwa. Let's understand exactly what his thoughts will be on this position by the government statistician. Good afternoon to you, Emmanuel.
Good afternoon, Mark. How are you?
I'm fine. So will you agree that public sector workers are overpaid, especially in these times when the cost of living is high and public sector workers continue to demand for pay rise?
Thank you very much. I think this statement needs further scrutiny. So when the government statistician says that government workers are overpaid, then we have to be able to measure productivity in the various lines of government workers. There are government workers who work in services production. There are government workers who also work in production of goods and services. It is quite easy for you to measure. For example, if I'm a government worker and I work at the Help produces beverages. So if I want to calculate productivity or output for beverage production, that is quite easy. But if I'm into service production, let's say I teach in a primary school in a village, then it becomes quite difficult for you to measure because we have to have a metric for us to measure, for us to say that this So I believe that yes, to whole statistics, we have to subject it to further scrutiny so that we can get the various aggregates in terms of output and productivity from government workers.
So are you saying that it's almost impossible to measure productivity, especially in the service sector, in the public sector, even though that's possible in the private sector?
It's quite difficult. I'm not suggesting that it is impossible, but quite difficult because of the metrics we have to use in measuring. And I give an example. If I teach in a public school in a village, let's say primary one, what will be my utmost output? And what measures are we, pegging those metrics against? That is the comment that I am making. Right. But of course, we have to also broaden the discussion. We know that, of course, we are not getting the maximum output we need from public sector workers. But the big question is, are they getting the right input for them to deliver on the productivity level as compared to the private sector? And I think that as you demand a lot from them in terms of productivity, you also have to make sure that they have everything that at their disposal to deliver in terms of productivity for nation building.
Right. So I think you've answered my next and final question in part. But what do you think accounts for the low productivity in the public sector, apart from the fact that, they do not get the inputs?
The second reason I have mentioned, so first reason will be the input. The second reason will be supervision. So who supervises what? And I think there should be clear lines of reporting in public sector workers so that we'll be able to get the best out of it. And I think and the third one will be in certain, KPI for public sector institutions, whereby they will even be able to sign performance contracts. For example, I'm a director for Ghana Education Service in the district. For you to measure my output, let's say the children in my district, they should be able to deliver a certain outcome. Then these KPIs must be measured so that we'll be able to say that indeed, Ghana Education Service sector workers in maybe District A, they are delivering in terms of what they are supposed to deliver when we are measuring productivity.
Right. Thank you very much. Emmanuel Darkwa is an economist there speaking to us on the position by the government statistician that public sector workers are generally overpaid compared to their output. Now, fuel price today crossed 10 cedis per litre price at the pump. Major oil marketing companies such as Shell and Total have adjusted prices to reflect the rising crude oil price on the international market. The latest price increase confirms analysts' projections that fuel price will cross 10 cedis if the tensions in Ukraine continues. Crude oil price hit $119 a barrel on the international market today, largely driven by the Russian-Ukraine war. There were predictions that crude oil prices could hit $185 if the war continues. At this point, many African countries are in a fix in dealing with the rising fuel price and its associated inflation and the general cost of living. That was business. The news will continue after this break. Stay with us.
There are strong women whose stories teach us perseverance, logic, decisiveness, and self-confidence. Being strong is not just about physical abilities, but also emotional, intellectual, and mental strength. Women's Voice is a platform to hear and share stories to encourage women and girls. Women are the real architect of society. It is they who provide the foundation of power, grace, wisdom, justice, creativity, and hope. Join us live every Monday at 4 p.m. on GBC News and GTV, Wednesdays live at 4 p.m. on GBC News and a repeat on Saturdays at 4 p.m. on GBC News and Sundays at 3 p.m. also on GBC News. Women's Voice. No one can make it inferior without your consent.